call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Yes. Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item is the moment of silence. The Board Vice President.
As we begin this meeting, let us pause for a 60-second moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in any other silent activity. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and it will be led by Genty, Addison, and Peyton Price, second grade students at Country Lane Elementary.
Please stand and say the pledge with me. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies, what grade are you in?
Second.
Do you all speak in unison all the time together?
No.
Can you tell me a little bit about your class and what you guys do in class?
In our class, we learn lots of math and science.
Do you like math and science?
Yes.
Okay. How about the rest of you?
You should do it. Fine. In my class, we do spelling, math, and centers.
Okay.
In my class, we always like to do special stuff because my class is just for some reason, all three of our classes are awesome.
Who's your principal?
Miss Officer,
This officer? All right. Well, you guys look fabulous tonight. I actually didn't know if we were having a runway model show tonight or what we were having. You guys look very nice. Do you dress like that every day?
no.
I have two daughters too. They're a little bit older than you, but they don't dress like that every day either. Well, what'd you guys do today? Did you get to go outside for recess today? Is it inside day?
Yeah.
That's tough, isn't it? All right, we're gonna take a picture with you. Is that okay? You guys will make me look really good. You promise? You'll stand right up here and we'll take a picture of you. You gotta scoot together. Here we go. Here, I'm gonna get on my knee. Great job. Let me go home now.
Next item on the agenda is the formal adoption of the agenda. There were no issues or no items that came to my attention that needed to be addressed.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to formally adopt the agenda. Please call the roll.
Hold on, sorry. I don't know what happened to it.
She's got what your computer has.
Sorry about that.
It's always great.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. The next item on the agenda are the minutes of March 9th, 2015 regular meeting minutes. Ms. Karen Stites.
Yes, President Kelly, an error was discovered on item 8 under the board reorganization on the regular March 9, 2015 board meeting minutes. The item read incorrectly. Member Steve Majors moved that Mr. Steve Allen be elected as board president. It should have read Mr. Steve Allen be elected as board vice president. The minutes have been updated to correctly reflect the board action, but I wanted you and the other board members to be aware of the error on the document which was published incorrectly to the public.
Okay. We need a motion to that effect.
Make a motion to approve with the noted changes.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the amended March 9th, 2015 regular meeting minutes. Please call the roll.
Just 1 second there. Just before you all start to vote, we are 1 step
Ahead.
ahead.
Okay,
So
Yes.
go back.
I'm on the minutes right now.
It's the
this is
13th.
on the 313
Yeah.
minutes that are currently
Oh,
up
I'm
there.
sorry.
We should be on
Mm.
39.
Just,
Ms. Stites, can you go back?
Yes,
Okay.
there we go. Okay, Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is the March 13, 2015 special meeting minutes. Any questions or comments?
Recommend approval?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the March 13, 2015 special meeting minutes. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Abstain.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. And, okay, we're waiting on the, did you get the vote buttons on those?
Yes?
Okay. Did you get my vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't vote on the 9th.
I think it voted.
We've got it
Yeah.
taken care of on the voice vote.
I voted.
All right, the next item on the agenda are the summary of awards and achievements. Mr. Ken Ellett.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall Board. Very excited tonight. You know, anytime you win a state championship, that's a great accomplishment, especially in a state like Oklahoma where it's so competitive. But to win a state championship 2 years in a row, that second year, everybody's got a target on you, knows who you are, and they're looking for you. It makes it that much tougher to do, but our girls' basketball team did that. I'm going to bring their head coach up here. Before I do, I want to brag on him a little bit. He won't get a chance to do that. One of the awards, the team has gotten several awards since the season's gotten over. One of the awards that Coach Hughes has gotten, the Daily Oklahoman picks what they call a Super 5 basketball team, and it's the 5 best players that they consider in the state at every level, every level combined, so every girls' team throughout the state. And then they pick a coach for that team, and Coach Hughes is picked as the coach for that team, which is really a great honor for him and our program. But at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce the head coach, a 2-time state champion, basketball state champs, Michael Hughes.
Well, thank you for having us here. We were unfortunately not able to get everybody here. We're already back at practice. The majority of our kids are playing AAU, and if they're not playing AAU, they're working somewhere at one of our vendors in the city. So, but we are very fortunate to have some of our kids here. And tonight we have Taylor Jones here tonight, and Alexis Galden, and Morgan Jones, and I think that is all we were able to manage tonight. But it was a really great year, and I don't know how many of you got to follow us, but it was a really special year I think for all of us, because I don't like most people really didn't give us a chance to be in the state tournament, much less win it. And we had a special group of kids, really special group of kids who were extremely close. And chemistry is a weird thing. And when you have great chemistry, great things happen. And that's what happened for this group. A lot of talent, but a lot of chemistry, and it was neat to get to watch. I'd like to say a special thanks to a couple of people over here, the Coach Jones, who's my assistant, Coach Pape, and Coach Walker. Just without them and the things they do, this year would not have been possible, and the kids will say that firsthand. After winning it last year, going 28-0, we really didn't think that what can top that? Well, I don't know, back to back, and now we're saying, well, what can top that? I don't know, three-peat. Why not? That's what we got hired to do, is win. So hopefully we're going to be able to continue to do that and make the city of Broken Arrow proud.
Mr. Hughes, I had the fortunate opportunity to attend the state finals, and it was a very exciting game. There were ups and downs. Didn't look like we were going to do it, but then you guys hung in there and pulled it out in overtime. And again, all the girls played excellent basketball, and it was a great win for not only the kids, but certainly the school district as well.
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, there was so many ins and outs to that game. I've had so many people tell me that's maybe the best high school basketball game they've ever watched. And that's saying something, and considering that last year in the semifinals, it was probably personally the best game I've personally ever watched or been a part of. And this year, I think the kids really won up to last year. And it would have been nice if it would have been easier, but unfortunately it wasn't. But that's the way it's supposed to be.
Well, we're really, really proud of all of you. I know that it takes a great team effort and a lot of chemistry, as you said, to make that happen. Very, very few get a chance to even coach in a game like that, but to be able to win back-to-back state championships is pretty special. So I know it takes a lot of leadership, takes a lot of great work, hard work, dedication for by all of the people that's on the team. But I know that as Miss Kelly, I thought that the end of the game was just unbelievable, to go into overtime in a state championship, and to actually, when we went into overtime, I had a really good feeling, because we were just absolutely would not let up. And so very proud of the girls and what they've done, and I know it's always tough to go through a long season like that and keep everybody focused. And so thank you for what you do. I know you said that, I know you're paid to win, but you're also paid to make a change in these young ladies' lives. And I think they will always remember being a part of Broken Arrow basketball. And I think that's a credit to you, but also a credit to our community, because we really we want them to have a good experience, and that's what they've had. So thank you for what you do. I know the coaches are getting ready to pass out because they are holding the trophies, but everybody has to at least touch it for good luck, and I don't know. But I will say that I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Well, I will say that the kids, that we have an incredible group of seniors. Before I leave, just to let you guys know, we have Taylor Jones, who is signed with NSU. Tierra Jones is going to play somewhere, don't know where that is. She's undecided. Another senior who's going to Kansas Wesleyan. So you know, they're going on. They're going to continue to make changes, and it's a positive thing, and we're really happy with the girls that we're losing.
Okay, well, thank you. You guys
Thank
are
you.
gonna come by and shake our hands,
All right.
and then we'll let you guys move on out.
Oh, one more thing, just
Okay.
before I leave. The two that we have here tonight, Alexis Galden was our most valuable player of the state tournament this year as a senior, had 29 points. Junior, you're not leaving yet. Sorry. And Taylor Jones was second team all tournament. So really proud of him.
I don't want to play horse with either one of them.
No.
Great job.
Good job. Hammer.
Good job.
My favorite player.
Good job.
Good luck.
Good job.
Good job. Good job, coach.
Thanks for all you guys.
Good job.
Good job.
Good job.
Coach, I just hope he finds someone to replace that center because she was the best one in basketball.
The next item on the agenda under employment, Dr. Mendenhall.
Well, I just get to continue to bring good news tonight. I tell you, we're very excited tonight to bring to you the new principal at Linwood Elementary. Let's kind of talk a little bit about why we're doing this. Kind of backing up, earlier in the year we had some vacancies that occurred, and Mr. Crawley, Lance Crawley, was our Linwood principal at the time, and we felt like that moving him into a central office position as the director of secondary education was the right fit. The thing about that was it the right timing to do that? So after spending some time with him and really talking with our cabinet, we really felt like that we had some people kind of in place that really could actually step in and really do a good job within the building. So we asked Mr. Chris England to step in as the interim principal for the remainder of this year. Mr. England was over at Childers and had spent quite a few years there as an assistant principal, and we felt very good about that transition. But tonight, we're going to recommend him as our principal at Linwood, and we feel like that he is a great fit. And it sounds like the teachers are happy too. So I'm glad we chose the right one. So, but I will say this, it was kind of interesting. When I sat down with Mr. England and really spent some time with him last fall, we talked a little bit about what the right thing was to do going into a position like this, because it's very hard in the middle of a year, because usually you set your objectives and what you want at the beginning of a school year. And so he was very, we were very clear, and he was very clear that he was to step in and make the environment and the culture the right kind of culture that Mr. Crawley had developed. And, after really talking with him, we interviewed, we told him, at the end of this process, we're going to ask you to go through an interview process and actually have teachers on the staff that will go through an interview and actually make sure that we were, going through the right kind of process so that we found the right kind of leader. Of course, as you know, it went very well. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. England before I make the official recommendation. Mr. England's been with us quite a while. He graduated from Northeastern State in 2000, and then he went back and actually got his master's later at Northeastern State in Tahlequah as well. From 2000 to 2005, he was at Arrow Springs as a teacher. He then went into administration, was at Oliver Middle School for 3 years as an assistant principal, and 6 years as an assistant principal at Childers. So he's actually got 9 years of administrative experience with our district. So tonight, what I'd like to do is formally recommend to you Mr. Chris England as our principal at Linwood Elementary.
Are there any questions or comments? I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to offer employment to Mr. Chris England to serve as the principal at Linwood Elementary, with such employment subject to a mutually acceptable and fully executed written contract of employment. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Let's give Mr. England a round of applause. I know I can't see you because you're behind the post, but just if you would, if you don't mind, stand up and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and maybe how excited you are.
Well, I jumped in kind of just whole thing into January, tried to pick up right where Mr. Crawley had left off. Spent a whole lot of time trying to build rapport and relationship with all the teachers. As you can see them all, or a majority of them standing over there. Had a great opportunity to get to meet parents, students. Very excited about going back down to the elementary. Not to say that middle school was horrible, but I like my smaller children. So looking forward to working with the faculty, the parents, and the staff. And I will tell you that Linwood, watch out. We're going to be coming up real quick.
Wow. Do you coach football?
Many years ago.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda are the comments to the public. Seeing that we do not have any, we're going to move to the next item, which are the general consent items 10 through 24. I've not had any items called to my attention. So certainly if there are questions, what have you, if not, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the general consent items 10 through 24. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item is under Superintendent Board of Education Communications, Ms. Christian Welburn.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, excuse me, members of the board. Tonight I'll be providing you with a legislative update. I want to review a few of the bills that we talked about last time and also present some of the legislation that's been getting attention over the last few weeks. Okay, so last time we covered House Bill 1440. That dealt with these term limits for school board members. This bill was not heard on the House floor by the deadline, so it's considered dormant. One of the other bills we covered was Senate Bill 609, which dealt with voucher programs to distribute state funds to parents through ESAs or education savings accounts. Fortunately, this bill was pulled by its author, Senator Jolly, on March 11th, and Senator Jolly said he would hold the bill over until the 2016 legislative session, enabling supporters to work throughout the interim to address questions about the benefits of the school choice plan. Something else that has been a major discussion this session is the state budget. We have a projected shortfall of $611 million, and education cuts have been projected between 2 and 10%. And just to give you an idea of how cuts between 2 and 10% could affect education in Oklahoma, according to State Superintendent Joy Hoffmeister, we're currently 1,000 teachers short. Now, a 2% reduction, which would be about $50 million, would increase the teacher shortage to about 1,781 teachers. And a 4% cut, a reduction of about $100 million, would increase the teacher shortage to about 2,810. While we're not certain where the budget, where we'll land on budget cuts, the latest projection for education funding cuts in Oklahoma includes $35 million from the state aid formula and about $15 million from other sources of funding, which would include special programs such as, this is not an all-inclusive list, but such as RSA, ACE, and things such as staff development. Okay, so based on these projections, Broken Arrow Public Schools could potentially see a $1 million reduction in funding from the state formula, and also funding reduction from the special programs mentioned before. Now, no matter what occurs, our goal is obviously to make these cuts seem as seamless as possible to our teachers and staff.
You know, I certainly have a concern in that when we do see budgetary cuts from the state related to programs, that those programs never seemingly seem to get back to whole ever again, and that is a huge concern. But anyway, I certainly wanted to make that comment about that issue.
Ms. Wellborn or Dr. Mendenhall, either one, I had read an article over the weekend about Kansas is facing some similar situations budget cut wise. And they've got some schools that are having to shut down early, losing instructional days. Has that been forecasted at all for any Oklahoma schools or that you may be aware of?
Well, I was going to say that tomorrow I spend most of my day in Oklahoma City, and I'll hear more as the year goes on and as the budgets really get pinned down. I would foresee that there will be maybe some small schools that will have some issues like you're saying. You know, I read the same article about the Kansas and some of the reductions, but they were in the same situation as we've been in the past. They've been cut not as great as we have. Actually, Oklahoma, I think, is the #1 state in the union that has been cut the most. Let me kind of tell you a little bit about specifically, and me and Mr. Thompson will try to kind of tag team this. We are going to look at $1 million reduction, and one of the things that Ms. Wilborn said is true. We will try to make this as seamless to staff as possible. In other words, it will be done through attrition, we're going job by job, position by position. What we have made a commitment to do is keep all of the programs that we have because, for instance, I would give you a great example of we are just now implementing ROTC, and in fact, we'll talk more about that later tonight. We already have over 100 kids enrolled in ROTC. For a first year, that's pretty amazing to have that many enrolled. But it would be very unfortunate to start a program like that and turn around and then cut it after we've got momentum going into that. So we really feel that programs need to be held harmless, but we will do our very best to make sure that we're looking at, as I said, position by position, job by job, making sure that we are looking at different things that we could cut that are outside of the classroom. Because I think the classroom, once you get into it, it really is felt by teachers and staff. Mr. Thompson, is there anything else that you want to talk about on that part?
I think most of what we're doing is we've got a list of open positions, retirements, that sort of stuff. So as Dr. Mendenhall mentioned, we're evaluating each one of those. And then as we go through, if there's a hard to fill spot, they're requesting through cabinet, and we give them the yes or no to move forward. So it's going to be a little delay on hiring and decisions just because we don't know what the cut's going to be. We're planning on $1 million. I don't know if that's going to be reality or not. We're using the $35 million cut. So, but the list is going to help us as we go through there to be able to prioritize what we are and aren't going to do. Obviously, we'll be fine. We have a large enough fund balance and so forth, so if we can't get all the cuts, we could even recommend a small reduction into the fund balance and still move forward. So we have a lot of flexibility, but we're just trying to be proactive and make decisions as we go, and do them kind of as a collective group instead of hiring this position and later on wishing we had that position back to do something different with instead of whatever it was. So we're just going through the list, and as people announce their retirements or whatever the case may be, we're going through those individually. So
I would like to also make a comment that even though we're $611 million short, we continue to move forward with the tax cuts. And the tax cuts are what are hurting public education across the board, across the state. And if you look at the $611 million shortfall, very simply put, if the tax cuts were not proceeded with, obviously that would certainly help, and it would give us more dollars. We wouldn't have to cut as many dollars from public education. All of this dramatically impacts services that we provide to children, and the reality is, somehow or another, this message is not getting across, and it's more important to cut taxes than it is to provide services for children, for public education, and that certainly is an obligation of the state of Oklahoma to ensure that every child has a free public education. So, I know that's editorializing a little bit, but it certainly, I'm very concerned about it.
Well said, Ms. Kelly.
Dr. Mendenhall, I know, and maybe you can tell us if they're doing this, but in the state of Kansas, the Supreme Court had ruled that it was unconstitutional to fund education at the current levels that were funding it. Do you know if through your professional organizations or anything like that, if there's any of that potentially to move through the court system, or I don't know if it do any good, but
They have not gone that route at this point, but I think there's been discussion of that over time, that we could kind of force the issue at some point and force common education to be funded at a certain level. But at this point, there's not anybody trying to do that. I think it's also a little bit, Mr. Thompson may disagree, but it's a little bit premature. I mean, I think they do a lot of this every year, but I think they're more serious because it started out as a $611 million short. So I think there's going to be some type of cut. They always talk of this, and then usually they come through, but I do think there will be some type of percentage that will be cut in common education.
yeah, we've had discussions in the past about litigation in relation to their responsibility. I think that's a viable option in the future, but that would be decided by others than us. Does it work? It does. I mean, Texas had 3 lawsuits and were successful in all 3 and have gradually increased their, but it's just a process to go through, and it's not, one that people like to take initially. They like to try to resolve all the issues before. So I don't think that one's off the table, and I do think that depending on the size of the cut, that would bring more interest into doing that. Just simply that we have all the data to compare us back to their percentage over the course of time, and it's gradually decreased as an overall percentage. And so you have a viable case for at least to consider the equity issue as well as adequacy.
I would think at some point it may move there because you can't continue down the same road.
You got to do something. If they're not willing to fund, then you're going to have to force the issue and have a judge tell them to fund.
I mean, we're over 40,000 more students since 2008. Our costs continue to go up, yet the dollar per pupil is considerably decreased, and so that is a definite concern.
Well, and I think it's important that Joe Public doesn't get wooed by the politics that get involved in that, where you said it's 611 and when they swoop in to save the day and go, well, it was 200 million or what, or it's a lower number now. They've solved all of our issues, which is not the case.
And part of the reason why the number is so large this year is because they spent recurring expenses out of one-time revenue from last year. I mean, we don't do that. You can't do that. You can't function in that mentality to balance the budget on a one-time. I mean, I love going after the rainy day fund if they chose to do that, if that was one of the things they want to do. But it couldn't be for a salary increase. You just can't do that. You can't bank on the next year that being there because it's not. And so Yeah, there's just a lot of things there. The problem that we have at this particular moment with the budget is that nobody gets to discuss it. It's not out in the public. There's only about 4 or 5 people that actually make the determination, and then they present it yes or no. And so there's not a lot of discussion. There's not a lot of opportunity for ideas and alternatives to what's going on. It's just, this is what you get if you're in or you're not. And that's frustrating to a lot of people, that we don't have the opportunity to propose ideas and so forth and so on, because it's all decided by about 5 or 6 select individuals.
Here we go. Okay, Senate Bill 68. Senate Bill 68's drawn a lot of attention lately. We'll get back to it in just a second. Essentially, it would allow the governing body of a city with a population of 300,000 citizens to establish a charter school. The charter school would have to be located in a school district with at least 15,000 students, and all or part of that school district would have to be within the city with 300,000 residents within the boundaries, which, if you think about it, Tulsa qualifies as that type of city, and Broken Arrow, part of our boundaries do lay within the city of Tulsa. So we could be impacted. A few things to note: this bill does not allow for local school board control or even input from the Oklahoma City or Tulsa school boards. It's also considered unnecessary. There are 2 other bills, House Bill 1696 and Senate Bill 782, which would allow for the expansion of charter schools, but involve the local school boards in controlling those. So this was scheduled to be heard today by the House Education Committee. It was not at the last I checked, so it did pass in the Senate by the deadline, and it is with the House Education Committee at this time.
Would this have a direct impact on our funding? Negative impact, I guess?
It could,
It could
if
over
they
time.
choose to have charter schools. If someone chooses to have a charter school, but they could apply to the city council in Tulsa to sponsor a charter right here in Broken Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, there's only like 6 or 7 school districts over 15,000 students. So you're talking Broken Arrow, Union, Oklahoma City and Tulsa, Edmond, Norman, and that's about it. And so you're looking in more, but you're looking at, someone applying for a charter, going through the city council, the Tulsa City Council, to apply for that charter, and then receiving that charter, and then yes, that money would follow those kids through the Tulsa City Council.
So it allow the city council to get in the school business.
That is correct. That is correct.
Makes
And the
perfect
interesting
sense.
thing is we have a representative right here in Broken Arrow that's on the Education Committee. His name is Michael Rogers, Representative Rogers, and he is one of the ones that will be hearing this on that committee. He is the co-chair of the Education Common Ed Committee. So if you were to maybe text or write or email him, even during a board meeting, that might not be a bad idea.
And I do want to stress that House Bill 1696 and Senate Bill 782, those are 2 bills that OSSBA and some of the other organizations are working with our legislators on, and they feel more confident about those. So it's kind of a happy medium. Those are 2 that we could feel a little bit better about. Senate Bill 707, we talked about this one last time. It deals with high school testing. Just to review, it would return the discretion over assessment choice to the State Board of Education. It would also eliminate end of instruction exams and replace them with assessments that generate data that's relevant to student achievement. Although it doesn't specifically name the ACT, it would allow the State Board of Education to select the ACT as a high school exit exam, and the State Board of Education would also have the freedom to choose other exams to measure college and career readiness. This bill as well is with the House Common Education Committee at this point. House Bill 1749. This bill prohibits state agencies, including public school districts, from making payroll deduction for membership dues for employee associations or organizations that collectively bargain. Because the bill only applies to associations that collectively bargain on behalf of its members, it targets just two organizations, the Oklahoma Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers. According to COSA, OSSBA, and USSA leaders, they feel that this bill is unnecessary and it's likely unconstitutional. And they were hoping Governor Fallin would veto the bill and continue working with parents and educators to direct real problems in education affecting student achievement. Unfortunately, this bill was signed into law on April 2nd by the governor, so that was one that we were pretty disappointed about.
Thought this was kind of interesting. A payroll deduction, most employee groups do payroll deductions across the board on different things, whether it's, maybe annuity or something else. Thought this was kind of interesting that they an employee association or organizations that collectively bargain, so they cherry picked just that one item, and so I can't imagine it. That's why I think they'll see if it's constitutional, because you would think it would be all or nothing. Like, if you're not going to do payroll deductions, you wouldn't do payroll deductions, period. Not just pick out the collective bargaining, the payroll deduction for OEA, NEA, whatever. So, or the local organization.
But they'll still allow for payroll deductions for United Way and.
Well, yeah, we have payroll deductions for other things. Yeah, absolutely.
I think one point I would like to make is the message that it sends to our employees who are so valuable to us. And when you look at all of us, whether or not we're currently in education or we were in education or we're in any order of employment, we all take advantage of payroll deduct. And so anything that might be done that might cut to the edge of what we do as educators day in and day out, I think really has a direct impact sometimes on morale, which we are trying to do everything we can to ensure that our employees, no matter where they fit in the organization, are important, they're treated with dignity and respect, and certainly this particular bill to me goes against that notion. And so it's unfortunate, and I just believe that, as you said so well, Ms. Welborn, that probably there'll be some other actions that will transpire. So,
Dr. Mendenhall, maybe you can help me. I don't know. How do they even come up with this bill? I mean, Joe, representative from our area, whoever comes up and goes, hey, I just want to come up with a bill that doesn't allow for payroll deductions. Oh, and by the way, collective bargaining groups with school districts. I mean, have we been complaining about it? I mean, what, just all of a sudden out of the blue, let's have this payroll deduction bill come up for passage and come into law.
It is interesting. We had a conversation. We had a legislative breakfast that we go to periodically. Our local chamber hosts a legislative breakfast, and the actual author of this bill, I believe it's Senator Nathan Dahm, that is from our area again, represents Broken Arrow, is the author of the bill. And his comment to that question was that this was the first of many payroll deductions that he felt like he was going to try to pass law on, so that we couldn't do payroll deductions in other areas. So, I mean, that was one of the things I kind of made a mental note of, is that, so if we're starting with that one, then we're going to see in the next legislative session that there'll be all, other payroll deductions that will be, excluded as well. If not, then I feel like it's kind of we're cherry picking what we want and what we don't want. And I always have wondered, I don't know, what business is it of theirs to, I know they're lawmakers and they make laws, but it's kind of weird that they would get involved in something of that nature.
How does this help our $611 million problem?
It doesn't. It doesn't. That's, it's.
I mean, do you have a strong pack of residents in our area, in our district, that have been calling him just mad because we're doing payroll deductions and by God, he's gonna write a bill to stop it? I mean, is that how, I mean, how does it come
It's
up?
because of Wisconsin, and they've set the precedent with the law that they've gone there. I mean, that's what I personally
But I
feel
mean, I don't
stems
understand
from.
how that helps anything or benefits anything. It doesn't.
Well, and I get, it just frustrates me because they spout this stuff about local control, but then how is that, I don't know. It's disgusting.
Well, I think
Do nothing.
I think the important thing is, which we are doing a much better job of, is we are meeting with our representatives, and I look forward to having conversation with Mr. Dahm and a few of the others, and I'm sure some of you might also. Okay.
Can you invite him to a board meeting so he can explain it to us?
I don't know if that'd
Start.
be a great plan at
The
this
next-
point.
The next item on,
We definitely could.
the next item on the agenda is the presentation and discussion of the instructional time task force progress. Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes, President Kelly, members of the board. Tonight I wanted to kind of come to a final discussion point. I know that I have not placed this on as a vote tonight, rather than it's really more of a discussion. And the discussion is centered on what we've done to this point with as far as presenting and identifying a little bit about our needs in the district on time and when our students are picked up, when they're dropped off. What I would say is this, we developed there was about 35 to 50 members on this task force, and they began to study the start times throughout the year. They kind of went back and they evaluated a lot of different things. So let me kind of tell you what their goals were. They wanted to evaluate how changing school start times could improve transportation logistics. If you recall, we've struggled in the transportation area because we've had students that are up to about 1,700 students that actually are dropped off and wait on other buses to come and pick them up at the freshman academy. So that was one of the conversations that we had, was maybe relieving some of that pressure. Our second objective was considering the best start times for various age groups. If you recall, we've presented information to you about kind of those best times for kids to learn and kind of their sleep patterns and what was best for students going to school in the morning and when they're more aware, more awake. So we found that the younger the child was, the earlier they can start school. Those of you that have had children know that, it's like Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and they're ready to get up and have breakfast. And you're like, okay, it's sleep-in time, but they're up and ready to go. Well, that's because their sleep patterns are totally different than adolescents. Whereas I have to go upstairs and get my daughter out of bed at about noon on a Saturday. So their sleep patterns are much different. The third thing we wanted to do was determine the best way to incorporate embedded collaboration. And if you recall, embedded collaboration is how we do PLCs, our professional learning communities, and also RTI, which is called response to intervention. And so those were really our three areas or goals that we were trying to do with this instructional time task force. Our goal was to provide a recommendation to the Board of Education in the mid-spring, and we continue to push that out. I would say it is springtime, but it's not. I guess it might be mid-spring. But we felt very strongly that we needed to make some type of recommendation to you. Additionally, the task force understood the change could impact childcare, after-school activities, student schedules. So we really felt strongly that the input that we had with our stakeholders and our community was very crucial. So in March, we conducted a survey. We had over 4,000 people respond on the survey. We also put out a survey for our students at the high school, and we had close to 1,000 respondents on that as well. So we had a lot of great responses from people. And you might say, oh, maybe it was not good. Maybe the results weren't good. Actually, the counter is true. We actually had great results. We had great feedback. It was just at one point we looked at it and we said, okay, what are they really telling us? We had a percentage here that wanted to flip the times. We had a percentage that didn't. We had some that didn't want to go to 3 start times. So we had a lot of, conflicting data that we needed to really look at and make sure that we were doing correctly. The task force, basically, as they actually looked at it, they said, why don't we begin to look at kind of how this is going to affect each site? What time should we be starting? How's this going to affect the day-to-day operations of a site? In that, we found out that we were all over the board. High school had different logistical issues with even doing embedded collaboration, whereas an elementary had a totally different situation. In the midst of all of this, talk about a perfect situation, perfect storm. Our transportation director decides to retire. Perfect timing for him, I'm sure. That was a joke, guys. I'm sorry. It's best I got tonight. And as his retirement was upon us, we kind of said, it might be a good idea to have a fresh set of eyes for someone to kind of look at this from another perspective. Because, see, the committee, all of us had really begun to laser focus in on what we needed to do. And so that was another thing that kind of happened in the midst of all of this. We're in the process now of beginning the interview process to hire a new transportation director, and hopefully that person can come in and really give us some recommendations as well. So what I'm going to tell you tonight is my recommendation or my thought process is that we keep everything the same. Now, that doesn't mean that we've done nothing. We've actually we've done a lot. We've actually done a lot of research. We've done a lot of, we've received feedback. We've listened to the community. So we've done a lot of work to get to this stage. I think we've still got more work to do. I think next year we need to continue the process of reviewing it. I believe that we need to go to 3 start times. But at this point in time, I think it's premature. I think we need to continue to look at it and make sure that we are making a good decision for our community. I will tell you, I'm always, you know me enough to know that I'm going to do what's best for kids, and it pains me when I see a variation of that. And I'm going to tell you that what's best for kids is for us to really make sure that we make a good decision on this one, because I think this is one of those that we probably won't revisit again for quite some time. We've had 2 start times for a long, long time. I think we need to have 3. We don't know yet who will start first, who will start the middle, and then the last group to start. But I will tell you that it's still under discussion. We still feel like that we need to do more research and identify where we're going next year or the following year. So with that being said, our current start times, which are 8 o'clock to 2:40, are for the secondary students. 8:55 to 3:40 is for the elementary students, and that will remain the same next year. So nothing changes there. Embedded collaboration, if you recall, embedded collaboration was the time weekly that we might start late. And if we start late, what that would mean is that during that time, we will have to identify what we're going to do, because students will probably come at the same time. But in that late start, what will happen is our teachers will be doing collaboration time with their PLCs and the RTI. So with that, what I would say is that I fully anticipate moving to 3 start times for 16 and 17. We would like to make that recommendation pretty early next year so that people have plenty of time to know what we're doing. This will allow them to ensure they have given thoughtful consideration to all the aspects of the change. It will also give parents and staff time to make arrangements to accommodate. Because I'm going to tell you, this change is families and changes what they do in the mornings and in the afternoons. And I'll be real honest, I'm really excited about moving in this direction and eager to implement changes that are best for our kids. And I know that some on the committee will tell you that they're a bit disappointed that we're not going this direction right now. But I also think there's always timing is of essence. So it's not like we'll never make the recommendation, but at this point, I think it's best for us and probably the wisest thing to continue to study and for us to come back and maybe make a recommendation early in the year, next year for the following year. So I will try to, I know there are committee members in the room. I'll try to entertain questions, and if you have questions I can't answer, I'll defer to someone that might have been on the committee.
Dr. Mendenhall, as it relates to the embedded collaboration and the fact that we are not going to adjust the start times, how will the different sites work to make certain there is collaboration time for teachers? I'm certain there are some schools that currently are doing that, and maybe there are plans for more schools to be doing that, even if we are not moving towards new start times. Could you expound on that, please?
Well, and I think that's just it. You've hit on some things that we're all doing it differently right now, and this will probably standardize the process. And I think it's probably a good thing because right now we're at all different levels of the implementation process. Before this meeting every week, we have principals that actually go through professional development. And all of that professional development that they do right before the board meeting is to spend time talking about PLCs and RTI and how they're implementing it at their sites and doing best practice and trying to figure out how to make that all happen. So I think we're still in our infancy of implementing. So it will give us even another year to kind of look at site by site to make sure that we are doing it with fidelity and doing it the right way. Each building is different. Each building is unique. And even though I want to do kind of a standardized approach, I do think there's little things that will be different for each site, but this will give us a good chance to go in that direction.
I do want to comment too on the solicitation of our community and gathering input from our community in relation to the decision. I think it's really given us a lot of good information to really take a step back and take a look at it a little bit more thoughtfully and move through it in a more time-oriented way. And so as a result of that, I think we will be able to communicate more with our public and get them more prepared for a decision that may be forthcoming, and certainly our staff as well. So I would like to thank all of those who have been involved in having these ongoing conversations. Sometimes they're not easy, and sometimes it looks as though nothing is getting done, as you alluded to, but certainly I do think that by taking this step back, it's going to help us have more reflective questions that will help us in the end make better decisions for our students and our staff. So I thank you for leading that as well, and others too.
Welcome. I do appreciate the task force members and the work that they've done. The other thing that I might add is this is harder work. It's much easier to make a decision in isolation. Sometimes you have problems down the road, but there are a lot of school districts that have decided they're going to change times. There's no discussions. They bring it to a board, the board votes, and it's done. We're spending 2 years really in discussions. We gave a survey to our entire community. So it's harder, but it's the right thing to do. It's something that we've really tried hard to create a culture of input, feedback, collaboration. It's harder business, I'm going to tell you. I think, and I tell the principals this, and they know this, but it's sometimes a lot easier just to make the decision. Whereas in this one, I think we're doing the right thing to really listen to our community and listen to our stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, it's their school district. And we need to listen to them.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Mendenhall.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the presentation regarding the OSSA Brighter Future Rally. Dr. Janet Dunlop.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. On March 30th, we held our second, annual Brighter Future OSSBA rally at the Capitol. They're estimating about 25,000 people attended, and that was made up of, teachers, parents, school administrators, PTA, PLAC, all kinds of teacher organizations. The way they had the format this year is they had legislators that were supposed to be in their offices so that we could come by and visit with them before the rally. The rally started around 12:30 or so. There were some legislators that were in their offices, and I want to compliment a couple of our local ones. Representative Rogers here locally opened his door. He actually made an appointment with President Kelly, attended with us, and Shelley Holland Handy and Michelle Bergwall, and we sat down and he spent a lot of time with us discussing this. And he was really trying to brainstorm for answers of the problem with the budget, and I'll go into that a little bit more later. We also visited with Representative Casey. He also had some good words of advice. He spoke specifically about your question of how in the world does some of this crazy legislation get on the books? And his answer is that especially in smaller communities, you may not have that feedback mechanism. So you only have a few people who are talking to a legislator. He thinks this is a great idea because this is what he's hearing from his community and comes in with that proposed legislation. And that's how it happens. At the rally, they had several speakers lined up that started around 12:30. Dr. Ballard from Tulsa Public was one of them. Scott Inman, the House Minority Leader, spoke, and he talked specifically about how the budget and current teacher pay was unacceptable. Representative Lee Denny spoke a little bit about her off-the-top funding proposal that's similar to how they're funding roads and bridges. This is a bill that's still on the books. It has not been voted down yet, but she doesn't have anything proposed on exactly how this is going to be funded, just that we should take it off the top. So that's the problem with that so far. Superintendent Hoffmeister also spoke at the rally, and her main point is that she stands with us on especially the teacher pay raises and getting the budget balance to where we can have an increase in funding. But who stole the show was a student named Keontae Miles, and he was from Mustang Public Schools. He did what was called slam poetry, and it was phenomenal. The poise in this young man was unbelievable, and he stole the show. Standing ovation. It was really touching. So if you get a chance, look it up on YouTube and watch him do his slam poetry. So moving on, the overall theme of or feeling coming away from the rally was that of overall hope. However, also fear about the budget. Ironically, as you were talking earlier about the budget shortfall, Governor Fallon has been very vocal in that she has stated we only have a $190 million shortfall. So somewhere the math is different. And she is proposing a $50 million increase in the education fund. However, I'm not sure how that's going to happen with a decrease in funding and no plans to increase taxes on, say, horizontal drilling or something else that could actually bring funding into the state. So Stephen Crawford spoke very eloquently about how, and he's the executive director of COSA, but as you were speaking about the shortfall in student funding, in the last 5 years, we have increased 40,000 students in our state. However, the per student funding is decreased $243. So I don't know how that works and how we're going to be able to fund at the same levels or continue our good programs for our students if we continue to have decrease per student and a decrease in funding mechanisms that are coming into our state. So we must increase our revenue in the state. That's the bottom line. Any questions?
Any questions? Dr. Dunlop, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is Miss Amanda Summers.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, and members of the board. I bring to you tonight item 28, the discussion, motion, and vote on a motion to approve or disapprove the grant application and receipt of funds for Cindy Ellett, a pre-K teacher at Arrow Springs, ECC, for Cox Charities Innovation and Education Grant in the amount of $6,945.42.
Any questions on this?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the grant application and receipt of funds for Cindy Ellett, pre-K teacher at Arrow Springs Early Childhood Center for Cox Charities Innovation and Education 2015 grant in the amount of $6,945.42. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Item number 29, from the same funding mechanism, the discussion, motion, and vote on a motion to approve or disapprove the grant application and receipt of funds for Barbara Jones, she's principal at Park Lane ECC, for Cox Charities Education Grant benefiting all 4 ECC sites in the amount of $9,730.
Before we have a motion, if you would just say so move, then we would just, she's read it already, and we need a second, and then we can move forward with the vote.
You got it.
So moved.
Sorry.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the stated, let's see here, how should I say that? Number 29. Number 29. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next
Okay.
item?
Item number 30, same funding mechanism. This time it is for Kim Shine, and she's the school psychologist, and it is for a positive behavior intervention support.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
We have a
Do this
motion and
online.
second to approve the grant application, receipt of funds for Kim Shine, school psychologist for Cox Charities Innovation in Education 2015 grant in the amount of $9,000. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Now, if you'll work with me on this, and if you read it, then it'll be so moved.
Okay. All right, item number 31, discussion, motion, and a vote on a motion to approve or disapprove the grant application and receipt of funds for Gina Coster, Director of Secondary Special Education for Cox Charities Innovation and Education 2015 grant in the amount of $10,000.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
All right,
Thank you.
lastly, number 32, the discussion, motion, and vote on a motion to approve or disapprove the unrestricted donation from the Cherokee Nation Tax Commission through the Cherokee Nation Motor Vehicle Tag Revenue in the amount of $155,754.12.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
Have we received this before, this funding?
No, sir. Just in the last year, the boundaries have extended, and so this is our first year to receive the gift, and it is unrestricted.
Do I understand this is going to be a recurring deal?
To my understanding, yes,
Yeah.
sir. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you.
all.
You saw how that was done, didn't you?
The next item under
Put some pressure on me, man.
the next item under operational services, Mr. Grant Moore. And Mr. Moore, before you begin,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
certainly want to work very positively with our staff, and I know that our staff does a great job, so certainly I don't want this to seem as though I'm trying to do anything differently other than to progress the meeting. So,
all the work
if
on
you
All I know is basketball's on tonight.
if you determine, and Mr. Moore, if you determine to read that, then I am going to ask them to so move.
Okay.
Hand signal, whatever you want to do.
Well, good evening. Hopefully your team is going to win. Number 33, discussion motion and motion to vote on motion to approve or disapprove the purchase of 2 scissor-style lifts for the maintenance department in the amount of $43,500 with payment from maintenance funds.
Any questions?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
I don't have a
Thank you.
voting
Next
deal
item.
Yeah.
Now, hold on just a minute. Let's see if we can get the vote button.
We did not get
there.
it.
We didn't get one.
Mm-mm.
We did not get it.
I'm sorry.
Says under
I think
discussion.
she's trying to pull it up right now.
Let's do that again. Okay. Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item.
Number 34, discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the purchase of a bucket lift truck for the maintenance department from the lowest responsible bidder, I-80 Equipment of Colonia, Illinois, for the total cost to the district of $49,999 with payment from the building fund.
Are there any questions related to this?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Number 35, discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the purchase of site furnishings for Broken Arrow High School from Gerber Manufacturing in the amount of $47,903.30 with payment from the general fund.
Before I ask if there are any additional questions, I do have a comment on this. Would you please, on the breakdown of the furniture purchase, those are for benches and trash cans, et cetera, at the senior high school. Isn't that correct?
It's for exterior furnishings, it's benches, tables with seats attached, and trash receptacles.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Number 36, discussion, motion, and vote on motion to award a general construction contract for the Vandiver Elementary Special Education Room renovation to the lowest responsible bidder, BOE Construction, in the amount of $112,663, and authorize the Chief Operating Officer to approve or disapprove changes to the contract within the contract amount. All bidding was conducted pursuant to the Oklahoma Competitive Bidding Act. Payment will be made from the 2009 bond funds.
Are there questions or comments?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item, Mr. Brian Daly.
Good evening, President Kelly, members of the board, Dr. Mendenhall. I'm here to ask for approval for a new student management system for our district. But first, I'll be as quick as possible because of the amount. I kind of wanted to run down the roadmap to how we came to this through this process. So quickly, I wanted to explain a bit about the process and the selection of the new product. We were fairly diligent in our pursuit of this new system over the last year. Our student management system is, for those of you that don't know, is a clearinghouse for all of our student data and reporting for the entire district. to include all state reporting for the entire district. I would liken it to if there was a sun that all of our district's departments' data and information revolved around from a technology standpoint, it would be our student management system. So it's central to most everything that we do. So we were notified about a year ago of an end-of-life possibility of our current product, which is PowerSchool SMS, which we upgraded to from Chancery last summer. The upgrade from Chancery to PowerSchool SMS was virtually the same product with newer features and resolved some of the issues with our older Chancery version, so it was necessary for this school year. PowerSchool SMS is what you would call a light version of PowerSchool by Pearson. PowerSchool SMS is the product that will, of course, end of life summer of 2016. So this gave us the opportunity to spend almost a full year searching for a product that best fit our district's needs. We did preliminary demonstrations on the product last spring of 2014 with other districts. Then we performed a second round of demonstrations beginning in July of 2014 with our tech department in the Oklahoma City area with other districts looking for similar changes. A formal selection committee was established in November with approximately 30 individuals, with several of them in attendance with us tonight. We had several meetings, including 2 full-day demonstrations with our finalists. A full district-wide staff survey was also issued, where I received feedback with over 100 pages of excellent feedback from our district staff, teachers, support personnel on our current student management system and what they like to see in a new product. So a lot of that information was valuable in that search as well. Several references were received by other districts to us, both in-state and out-of-state, on our finalists. A committee selection for the product I'm bringing you this evening was made in February. The product I'm bringing you tonight will be a full year implementation that's going to run concurrently with our current system. Other districts who have purchased student management systems recently have tried to implement over the period of one summer, a 10 or 12 week period, and it hasn't been very successful. So that's one of the reasons we spent the year finding the product, and we're going to implement over the course of this school year with a go live date of July 2016. This will allow for more training and integrity of our data conversions and the implementation. So this is best practice for us, as we know, and we've been told by the manufacturers of student management system products, and we've seen, based on what other districts have done, this is going to be the right decision for us to implement over the course of a school year by running parallel with our current. So with that said, and there may be a few questions, we came here tonight to ask the board to vote to approve the purchase of SunGuard eSchool Plus student management system from SunGuard K-12 Education in the initial amount of $420 or $420,000. I wish it was 420. I'm sorry. $420,196,000. That will include all implementation, project management provided to us by the software vendor, all the conversions. That will include any in-district trips or employees provided by SunGuard to help us implement over the course of next year. It's quite possible, looking at the proposal, we may not reach that $420,000 mark. It's quite possible we'll come under that based on our needs by SunGuard. However, the good news is subsequent yearly costs to the district will be in the amount of $76,832, which is what the district is already used to encumbering with PowerSchool SMS all these years.
I have a comment to make. I know this is a significant undertaking for our staff members as we roll out and run side by side next year, but from a training perspective, as we enter that year where we're working side by side, will that be the large part of our training as it relates to staff members? And then when we roll out live, we'll already have our training and we'll already know what we're going to be doing, correct?
Correct. The issue with us trying to squeeze a project of this scale with a district our size and a 10 or 12 week period in the summer is your staff generally is off for that summer, teachers. So we chose to go the year-long route. So the first semester of next school year will be predominantly for the implementation, the data conversions, getting the core of the system set up, getting the reporting set. That way, as we enter back from winter break, we'll still have that second semester to focus on training with our district teachers and our staff on that system in the background, without skipping a beat from our normal business of the district, because we're still using our current system. And that way, we won't feel rushed with training. We'll still have that support from SunGuard that's built in. And like I said, we're not trying to squeeze that in over a period of summer. So that second semester next school year will be dedicated, as you said, for training.
Are there other questions?
You better read that again.
Well, one thing I can say, entering into a system such as this, it's going to potentially do a lot for us. We're going to see a significant change in our student management system as it relates to the day-to-day. Is that correct?
Right. We chose a system. It's a robust system that's built for districts our size to scale. We'll be able to grow with it for many, many years. It has the customization that we require with our district. This is a system that close to 90% of our Texas districts utilize, our larger Texas schools with 100,000+ students. The entire state of Arkansas uses this system as their platform, and we've engaged several districts in Texas and the state implementation specialists in Arkansas, districts in Missouri that utilize SunGuard, along with other applications that we also use software-wise that integrate well with it, and received excellent feedback on their implementation and their relationship with SunGuard. So we not only looked what's happening in Oklahoma, but we really looked at what are the larger districts, even at the state level, where they have statewide student management systems, what are they using? What are the large districts using to scale? We don't want to get caught up in a box with saran wrap around it, and we end up growing out of it, and we reach a ceiling, and we can't scale. So we specifically chose a system that will grow with us, that we can customize. And the nice thing about SunGuard is they have a very strong K-12 department. However, they're very popular in the higher education realm. For example, TCC and Oklahoma State University use a higher ed software by SunGuard as one of their products. They've been around for 40+ years, which when you vet out the hundreds of student management systems that are out there, a lot of them have only been around since early 2000s, and they don't have that reputation or established piece of software. Their financial side is very established. SunGuard's financial software is what runs NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. So they have plenty of funding for R&D. They have well-established products, so we felt confident going with a reputable company that we can grow with. So,
Mr. Daly, is it, with our system we currently use now, are there other districts in the same type of system that we use, management
our
system?
current?
Yes.
Yes.
That's coming end of life.
Right. So there are several districts in the same boat that we are. They're in the process of evaluating similar systems, such as Lawton, Edmond, Western Heights, Durant are a few that have PowerSchool SMS that are being forced to leave that platform. Western Heights has moved to SunGuard. Lawton is has made SunGuard one of their finalists. They haven't selected yet. A few of the smaller districts selected our second runner-up. They didn't have to worry as much about customization and scaling. Union just moved to a product. They were forced to move from a system I think Dr. Mendenhall might have been familiar with in the past. They went to our runner-up finalist. The only two that moved from Power School SMS to Power School are Jinx and TPS, and it's kind of a toss-up on the feedback you get from them. So there's at least 5 other districts in the state that have our current product. They're going to be forced off of that.
Well, the only reason I asked the question, I guess I should have said it, was the potential to co-op or have more school districts come in together, maybe a break in the price or the cost of the service.
Sure.
I didn't know if that was possible.
And that could be to have some sort of a consortium with different districts. We spoke of that on the reoccurring licensing if we gather districts on subsequent years, if we get a reduction on licensing, especially things such as professional development, establishing user groups in Oklahoma, for this new product.
Now, Mr. Daly, are there some other programs or systems that we may have in place that this can potentially eliminate down the road?
There's I'm trying to think right offhand. There's a lot of manual processes I guess we do now that we're going to be able to create more automation for, such as forms and things like that we do with third-party software that we're going to be able to incorporate into this new system. A lot of things are integrated. We're still going to use probably products like our school messenger and our other third-party applications. Some of the other ones that we'll be able to integrate are like our health module that we're paying for. We'll be able to get rid of our nurse program and utilize the one for SunGuard, so we can eliminate products such as that. We'll also be able to, in the future, go to an online enrollment scenario and registration with the new product to streamline our enrollment process so it's not as manual. So there's some automation and some things we'll be able to consolidate on the manual side that'll make things more efficient.
So the day-to-day operations, discipline, attendance, the grade book, the transcripting, the overall course scheduling, all of those things are under this umbrella. Is that correct?
Correct. So it's all inclusive, including the grade book, what we're familiar with is a parent portal. It's called Home Access Center, Teacher Access Center. It'll allow our students now to have their own portal and access. It'll allow for teachers to utilize a grade book from home on a tablet, see their rosters, do their grading. It'll allow for more mobility. They're one of the few vendors that we saw that actually had mobile application, that it would allow principals to pull up an app on their cell phone, create behavior and discipline scenarios, let's say right there in a hallway environment or in the school, without having to go back to an office, log on to a system. So they're using some of the newer software out there, HTML5, that a lot of software developers aren't using, which allows for more mobility on iPads, smartphones. But as Dr. Mendenhall said, all of those features, the grade book, the discipline, we'll be able to create better report card processes, such as our elementary report card. We'll be able to integrate that into the system and automate that, and create a better online report card for those grade levels. Attendance, registration, and enrollment. That's the uploading of documents, let's say birth certificates or proof of residency in the future, by going purely online with enrollment.
So it has all the bells and whistles. I mean, it pretty much does whatever we need it to do.
It does, and we had Chancery for the last 15 years, and it's one of those things where you get into a system it's hard to get out of. So this end of life process it's been good for us because we're able to have the time to choose what works best for our district. It's also an ERP system, if you will. So in the future, if we like the features of the student management side, we can incorporate other modules such as human resources or financial and other things to make a complete ERP system out of it. So pretty robust program that we'll be able to grow with for many years to come. A lot of our decision and choice, like I said, came from some great feedback from our district-wide survey on what our teachers wanted out of things such as a grade book and attendance and just the overall look and feel of the screen. It's more intuitive. So,
Mr. Daly, thank you so much for that. I would entertain certainly a motion unless there are further questions or comments.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the purchase of the SunGuard eSchool Plus student management system from SunGuard K-12 Education in the initial amount of $420,196 with subsequent yearly cost to the district in the amount of $76,832 with payment from the bond funds. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you.
thank you.
Next item under instructional services, Dr. Janet Dunlop.
Good evening. The next item I have is a recommendation to approve the proposed trip for a group of 13 students, 4 chaperones, which are 2 teachers and 2 parents, all to attend MIT this summer from June 17th to June 23rd. This is the Invent team from Broken Arrow High School that's going to present their Lemelson MIT Excite Grant prototype. So they will all travel up and do their presentation, and we have a couple of staff members that are driving the box truck up, and that this is for the receipt of funds up to $30,000 to fund this trip. And this is money that the students and Mrs. Grottle and Ms. Summers have raised for the trip.
Are there questions or comments?
Nope.
Just other
Sounds
than
like a
that's an
good trip.
incredible opportunity. That's amazing.
Yes, it is.
That is cool.
It's the only Oklahoma state, or the only school in the state of Oklahoma ever to receive this honor. So,
Hats off to our district.
I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the proposed trip and receipt of funds up to $30,000 for Donna Grottles B. Broken Arrow High School Invent team to present their Lemelson MIT grant, a prototype at MIT's Eureka Fest in Cambridge, Massachusetts, June 17th through 23rd, 2015. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item, Ms. Shannon Turner.
President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board, I ask that you approve the purchase of 104 Chromebooks for $26,832, 57 iPads plus 2 iPad carts in the amount of $31,859.90 for a grand total of $58,691.90 to be used for Title I at Vandiver Elementary.
Any questions or comments?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve what Ms. Turner just read. Please call the roll.
You gotta say so.
Dr.
So moved.
Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Dr. Mendenhall, President Kelly, and members of the board. Item 40, discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove an increase of approximately $150,000 in the anticipated expenditures under the fiscal year 2015 contract with Rehab Source for Kids, RFK, for the provision of occupational and physical therapy services.
Are there questions?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Ms. Kelly?
Yes, and, okay, got the voting buttons.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, under Student Services, Mr. Jadamski.
Good evening, President Kelly, members of the board, and Dr. Mendenhall. The first item I bring to you tonight is item number 41. It's discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Chris Whitmore Frozen Drinks, providing refreshments for the senior prom. The total cost of the refreshments is $1,250 and will be paid from the junior class activity account.
Are there questions or comments?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
It's item number 42, discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Chris Whitmore Frozen Drinks, providing refreshments for the junior jam. Total cost of the refreshments is $1,492 and will be paid from the junior class activity account.
Why is this one more?
I'm
Why
sorry.
is this one different than the other one?
There's more students that will be there
Okay.
at the event.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
The next item is item 43, discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Christian Gomez, providing DJ services for the high school junior jam. The total cost to the district is $300 and will be paid from the junior class activity account.
Questions?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Derek Blackburn.
No.
Again.
Mr.
Oh, did I
We're at
jump up
44.
one? Sorry about that. It's my fault. Hang on just a moment. We are on item number 44, Mr. Ken Elliott. I'm sorry. Sometimes I jump ahead.
Good evening again. I'm going to ask for the board to consider approving a agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Battle Creek Golf Club for a football booster club to be held May 23rd, no cost to the district.
Okay, are there questions or comments related to this item?
So moved.
Recommend.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Derek Blackburn.
Good evening. I bring to you tonight, hopefully for approval of directional amplifier systems for two different schools, one being Oliver Middle School and the other being Childers Middle School. This would actually make a completion of the project in regards to the Harris radios that we purchased over a year ago. If you recall, we did a test model at Spring Creek to make sure that this would resolve the issues that we had. And once that was successful, then we put this out for a larger bid, knowing that 2 additional sites was going to be rather expensive. So I'm bringing to you tonight total radio for the amount of $45,583.
Okay. Are there questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the installation of 2 bidirectional amplifier systems provided by Total Radio. The cost is $45,583 and will be paid from bond funds. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item, Ms. Natalie Ina.
Good evening. My first item tonight is discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the request to increase the general fund operating and revenue budget by $155,754 for the receipt of revenue from the Cherokee Nation. Ms. Summers presented this item earlier, and this is to adjust the budget.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
My next item is a discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the request to increase the general fund operating and revenue budget by $150,000 for increased expenses related to services provided by Rehab Source for Kids and the related revenue that will be received from the associated Medicaid claims.
Are there any questions or comments?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the request to increase the general fund operating and revenue budget by $150,000 for increased expenses related to services provided by Rehab Source for Kids and the related revenue from associated Medicaid claims. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Next item is discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the request to increase the child nutrition operating budget by $250,000.
Okay, could you explain that a little bit more in detail?
Of course. The reason for this increase is at the beginning of the year when we set out to craft the operating budget for child nutrition, we had a very large one-time expense for the finishing of the remodel of the cafeteria and student union. This was a one-time expense to child nutrition, and at the time we chose to keep the budget constant and in consistency with past years and not raise it and kind of see how the year went. Food costs have risen. Child nutrition has also bared the burden of their own workers' comp expenses and are funding that through our self-insured workers' comp fund. And so because of those expenses, they need approximately $250,000 more to cover food costs through the end of the year and to cover summer school.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Any other questions?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the request to increase the child nutrition operating budget by $250,000. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
My last item tonight is discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve or disapprove the application for temporary appropriations for the 2015-16 fiscal year for general building, child nutrition, gift, endowment, cooperative, workers' compensation, arbitrage, and bond funds 31 through 39.
Okay, are there any questions?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to accept the action item read by Ms. Ina. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item, Ms. Kathy Menavalis.
Good evening. My item tonight is to a discussion, motion, and vote on motion to approve encumbrance reports for all funds totaling $2,031,633.37.
Questions? I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the encumbrance reports for all funds for the 2014-15 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Second item is to request your approval of change orders for all funds showing a decrease of $621,352.26.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the change order reports for general fund, cooperative fund, building fund, workers' compensation, bond funds, gift funds, and child nutrition fund for the 2014-15 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item, Mr. Ed Fager.
Good evening. Tonight, item number 52 is a second reading for policy number 2130, Partners in Education, and revisions to that policy. These revisions are to redefine the way participants in the Partners in Education program receive benefits from that program. This has been reviewed by our legal counsel and approved. So as this is a second reading, I'm asking for a discussion, motion, and vote on a motion to approve or disapprove the proposed revisions to Board Policy 2130, Partners in Education, in Section 2, Community Relations.
Any questions?
Recommend,
Go ahead.
recommend approval?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item under the next item is new business. Seeing that we do not have any, we'll move to the next item, which is the executive session.
Make a motion to move to executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and second to go into executive session pursuant to Oklahoma Statute Title 25, Section 307B1 and 7 of the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act to discuss the 2014-15 fiscal year evaluation of the superintendent. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Have a good evening.